Good day, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pastures Farm. Today, our special guest is David, and Jan and I are actually.
David has the last name.
Well, everybody knows David.
That's right.
David Goppelt.
There
And
you go.
David is finishing up has finished his year-long internship with us, and he has secured a job up north of us, up by Brookfield, and we're really, really tickled that David's found a great opportunity up there, and he's going to be close to us. And so we're actually going to be able to stay in contact with David. Yeah. And so, yeah, we have the Green Hills Farm Project every month or so, and we'll get to see David there because where he's going to work, that fellow right now is the current president of it, and he attends. So we're going to get to break bread with David.
Yeah.
During the month. And
Literally.
Because we have a meal. We have a meal every day, every time we meet, and it's a great, for those of y'all that are in Missouri or in the surrounding area, it's a grazers group, and we meet every month at somebody's farm, and we have a covered dish, and we do a farm walk, and we go over what they're doing on the farm. It's a wonderful tool to network with other producers and see what they're doing. So I encourage you, if you're in the area, you ought to check us out. It's Green Hills Farm Project. And Jan's the treasurer, or not the treasurer, the secretary.
So if you want to send an email to Greg to get on the list, in February we will be having our kickoff for the year. We try to bring a speaker in, and we have a potluck, and you can pay your dues at that point, and we'll line up the pasture walks.
Yeah.
So,
but anyway,
little plug for that.
Yeah. So today's topic, David's been with us for a full year, and he's got to experience all 4 seasons of being a grazer here. And what we've tried to do is, really go over all the intricacies of running a successful, profitable grazing operation. And we want David to be successful in his future, because I've met a lot of good young guys, and I would put David at the very top. He's very passionate, hardworking fellow, and Jan and I are both extremely happy that we got to spend a year of our life with this young man, and we're going to make sure to stay in contact with this fellow.
Likewise,
because we want to see him succeed, and whatever it takes, we're going to do that. So with that, all the years goings on, I mean, we've done a lot of things. He's got to experience a lot of things here. I will say this, though, the one thing that comes out on top of David is his passion. And for those of you all watching, you need to go to his channel, The Thinker Farmer, and go back and look at some of his videos and the way this guy thinks and his passion for what he's doing. And I'm a big guy on passion. I feel like if you're going to start in this regenerative farming movement, you need to have this guy's kind of passion. And if you do, you're going to be successful. Every single morning that David was here, we meet at 7:30 in the morning. And David was always here at 7:28 or 7:20. He was always.
I don't want to miss out.
Well, he's punctual. He's punctual. You don't think a manager doesn't recognize that? Well, I did. He's always very, very, very punctual. And if anything, at the very start, David had to put a bridle on him, kind of hold him back a little bit, because he's such a hard worker. And he told me that. He said, "Greg, it's a fault of mine." He said, "I can't help it." And so at night, I didn't know it, but David would go out around the farm different times, and he would see a tree laying on the fence or some brush that needed to be cut. He'd just go do it. And I don't know how he did it, because I didn't see him doing it.
I think you go on a Sunday afternoon and do a YouTube channel video. And
yeah. Well, you'd sneak out with my chainsaw.
Well,
I didn't even see
I asked you beforehand. You told me it was okay to take the chainsaw and go work, so I knew I could do it.
Well, we'd come by, and I'm like, what in the world happened here? There'd be a great big pile of nice, neatly stacked brush where there was a tree laying out in the pasture. And Isaac's like, "Yep, that's David. David nailed that." And
I enjoyed every bit of it. I wish I'd done to do more. I still have a list of places on my laptop. I make a list. You keep track of these things, gang. If you have a list of projects and then you prioritize them, so that when you find an afternoon and you want to go have some fun on a Saturday or Sunday, you can go clean brush and knock out.
Did y'all hear that? He said that's fun.
Yeah,
I'm the same way.
He is.
So when I worked in town on Friday afternoons, I worked in town for 29 years, and people would go, "What are you gonna do this weekend, Greg?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna build fence." Yeah. And they're like, "Build fence," and I'm like, "Yeah, there's nothing fun about that." And I'm like, "Yeah, there is."
Yeah, there is. It's
you know what my brother would say? Well, what did you do today, and I was like, well, I took the dogs and I got some loppers and I cut cedars.
There you go.
And
Yeah.
and I took a walk this morning, and where you guys took the fence out, I'm like, ooh, baby cedars.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
So, do you have a question, Greg? You want to ask a couple questions to ask this young man?
Yeah, so David, in your future, I mean, for 5 years from now, where do you envision being? I mean, you've set some goals. I know you're a very goal-oriented guy. Can you share with us possibly what that kind of looks like?
Yeah. Well, there's two things. First is I remember as 18 or 19 setting a 5-year goal, and I tried to make it very narrow to where it was just focused on raising a certain number of chickens and doing other things. And I've seen how my goals have changed through the years, and so I usually make a bigger picture goal now. And but I think primarily I want to be profitable as a farmer. I want to be making money, and I don't know what that will look like, but I want it to be based on grass. Yeah. And that was one of the farm I'm working at. It's the Powell Cattle Company. They have several thousand acres of grass, and that means that they can be profitable in a number of different ways, and they base their production on just simply on grass production. They're not relying on a lot of grain or inputs, and there are a lot of farms that depend on those things to make their business model. And so I want it to be dependent on nature and nature's design, so that I can, as an individual, I'm not having to be propped up by a system. Primarily, Greg, I really want to make sure that I'm constantly improving the land, and that means with animals and livestock. And other than that, I really just want to be a friend to people and help build community and encourage them in their farming dreams.
Right.
I don't know. I wish I could say more precisely a detail.
No,
but
I don't think it.
That's the bigger picture. And what I will say this, though, is as I continue to mature, I'm going to slowly focus those goals in more.
Yep.
Right now, I don't have to make, I'll say this, and to me, this is a wonderful thing. I don't have to make $40,000 or $60,000 next year because I live frugally. Mm-hmm. I can make it on less than that. I'd love to make that and then put that money in livestock.
Yeah.
But I have to make a minimum of, 20 to 30,000 is kind of a minimum today, Greg.
Yeah.
Well,
you got
to make that just to pay your bills and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I think somebody that's really watching the P's and Q's and focusing on what you need to be doing as far as pasture management, being a really good call. You got to call animals and build a nice herd up. You won't be too many years, David. You're gonna be looking way past that. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Yeah.
I think you should easily be able to do that. And folks, I like David because he's always writing stuff down. And I don't have mine with. Yeah, I do. I got mine with me. And I got him started on these, and the daytime, I don't care what it is, but it's you need to write down stuff. And if you don't write it down on a calendar, preferably something you can carry with you, and when this fills up, it's for each month, put it away and get the next month out. And I've got a whole list, a whole stack of them that I go back to all the time, and it helps me a lot to revisit people that I've met, maybe how many livestock we sold or whatever, but you've got to write stuff down. You can't remember it all.
Yeah, I'd like to add something to that. One of the greatest minds of the 20th century, the German physicist Albert Einstein, said, "Never remember anything you can look up." Because if you try to remember it and memorize it, it'll fill your brain, and your brain will always be spending your mental energy trying to remember things. If you write them down, all you have to do is remember where you wrote it. And usually we can do that.
And that's why it's good to have the daytimer.
Yep,
that's right.
And I can usually remember what year.
Yeah,
that's right. I may not know what month, but I'll find it.
Yeah. And then when you do that, your brain is free to dream and have visions and communicate. And for me, the daytimer is all about taking responsibility for things.
Yeah.
And
well, David, I've followed you and watched your growth over the last year, and Jan and I are so proud of the growth and the momentum that you've accelerated here. It's just unbelievable. And I don't know, the way you speak, you're so much more confident now.
Yeah.
In your speaking. And some of that has been, I know, age, but you've experienced a lot here.
Yes.
And I just can't say enough good about that.
Well, thank you, Greg.
You're very articulate with your words. So where'd you learn to speak the way you speak? I mean, not every young man can speak the way you speak.
Well, it's kind of, I don't want to cry about it, but my mom, she was the one that taught me. I was homeschooled, and that could have been a downside, but my mom was an English teacher, a PE teacher, and the PE side meant she wanted me to get up and go. That's why I worked so hard. And the English side means that she didn't allow me to have a conversation with her without looking her in the face. And she did not allow me to talk without being able to speak clearly.
Articulate.
And listening and articulation, she was very adamant. Don't use a lot of filler words. You need to have a good vocabulary. Listening to her talk on the phone or whatever, she had an incredible vocabulary. And the only other thing I would add to that is the growth this year has really been about me becoming confident in myself and my identity as an individual. Mm-hmm. And just believing that what I am is a good thing, and not being afraid to go out there and win and realize I'm winning for others. I've had some previous farm experiences that weren't as good, where people felt threatened by my passion, and so they wanted me to cover it up.
Yep.
And so coming through this year here, I said, you know what? Here at Green Pastures Farm, we're all about everybody expressing themselves and coming together to be a part of a bigger picture.
I want your thoughts.
Yeah.
And just because you're an intern doesn't mean that this is the way we do things around here. I want your all's thoughts. And I'll say it again, a lot of the changes that have happened here at Green Pastures Farm, positive, have been because of folks like you.
Well, thank you, Greg.
And we encourage that. And so, folks, if you're starting out and you're wanting to do an internship or thinking about doing this for a living, please follow what David's talking about here, because I couldn't go out and design a more well-rounded, well-spoken young man and focused than David. So watch his channel, The Thinker Farmer. If you're a young folk starting out, you're going to pick up a lot of tips, I'm guarantee you. And with that, David, I want to thank you
so much, Greg.
Yep, thank
Blessings.
you, man. And Jan and I,
Jan, too.
Jan and I are tickled to have had you.
2 hugs today.
We're even more
Get one more
tickled.
later.
We're even more tickled that we get to hang around this young man.
Yes.
Because he's staying in the area.
Yeah.
So thank you, David.
Thank you, Greg.
Everybody hit that subscribe button way out, and we'll see y'all down the road.